There are so many people romanticizing Arab culture online nowadays. People show women being taken care of by men that appear to be wealthy. They show this soft life where women have all the free time in the world. They're traditional, they stay at home, and the man provides everything for her. Maybe they show the woman shopping all day, or taking classes, or cooking, doing enjoyable or lighter activities. The women are protected by the men in the family. They don't show that there are any expectations on them of what they should do in comparison to the Western world, where women are expected or pushed to get an education and to work, and compared to the traditional or past lifestyle of a woman staying at home, whether she has children or not, or being a stay-at-home wife or stay-at-home mother. It may be viewed negatively, but there is this deep contrast online, especially in the West. We have two extreme sides, either the feminist agenda for women to, in a way, stomp on men and continue outperforming men as they are, or go after a completely traditional lifestyle of being taken care of by a man and staying at home and taking care of the home, cleaning, cooking. But no one explains that these benefits in Arab society or for Arab women come with conditions and control, and that what they show online is not the reality. The reality is that the majority of women in this situation don't have the freedom people think that they do. It's only a privilege if you have the freedom. But if you don't have the freedom to choose your life path, it's control. There is the outsider, or personally, I have the mixed privilege of being from both places. And outsiders or mixed people can pick and choose what they want. Like, we can take the aesthetics, but we don't take the consequences, or we don't face the consequences in this culture, because we can always leave when it gets uncomfortable. But the reality is, people that are only in this culture, women only inside the culture, can't opt out of the consequences. They live in the full reality, the good and bad. And these people are romanticizing something that they don't have to survive and that they have a choice in. Many spread this idea that Arab families are loving and accepting, and to some boundary they are. But the reality is that it's conditional love, and if you step out of your role, you are rejected, and you bring shame onto your family. I mean, you can be cut off from marrying outside your religion. You can be isolated by your entire community, everyone you knew. So even your own family can abandon you for not playing your role. So you don't really have much of a choice. You don't generally have the choice to choose to be financially independent. The reality of marriage is many are arranged or pressured. As a woman in the society, you're expected from the moment you are birthed that this is what your life path is going to be. You don't have another choice. So you may have to marry, you may be pressured or forced into marrying someone you barely know. Of course, people can pretend to be something they're not before marriage, especially when marriage happens so quickly, maybe in a few months, generally. The social pressure makes the choice not real. It's not a real choice. And the man is the provider in theory and technically in the law, but the reality is that they can pay the bare minimum. Women may be forced to contribute anyway. For example, I know a woman with a daughter, and her daughter wanted to apply to school, and there was a fee. the daughter asked the husband or her father to apply, and he refused to give the money. So either the mother is forced to pay, or the daughter loses the opportunity. So they're promising women security with this life, but many women end up with responsibility and at the same time no power. And women in the society can't just leave. It brings shame onto the entire family. The children are affected, the reputation of the family, the children. It can affect also even the children's marriage prospects in the future, to marrying up or marrying into a good family. So it affects everything around you. And here it's the cultural pressure is more important than your personal happiness in comparison to an individualistic society. So leaving in this sense isn't just leaving a man, it can be losing your entire life. As well as there's a lack of protection not only from the law but from the community that you're a part of. Domestic violence exists and is known amongst families, and there's nothing done to it, or not much done to intervene. If there are crimes, the community, even if they can go to the police, they handle it within the families or family to family, and there are very few consequences. For example, there was a very famous case in a country recently where there was a young girl under the age of 5 years old, and she was being beaten by her father, and they only knew because he was doing so on the balcony, and there was a neighbor that recorded, and he was arrested. But there's also a way with the religion to get out of this case, and he was released. So the system doesn't always protect women and children, even if it says it does. And what looks like protection from the outside isn't often protection at all. And this is the whole point. Reputation is so important that people make it look as though they're protected, make it look as though they're provided for. If there's a man not providing privately, but when they go out in public with their family or their wife, they will pay just for show, just to pretend. So it looks like protection, but it's just the image that is portrayed to you. And at the end of the day, it's the same cycle over and over. The Women's Day, because they don't really have a choice, and they never had a choice from the beginning. The children see this, they accept this as normal, and grow up with the same beliefs. So daughters repeat the same roles, and sons repeat the same behaviors. Even possibly daughters adopt these harmful beliefs and practices of pretending everything is correct and not doing anything about it because there is no choice. As well as, at the end of the day, there is internalized misogyny from women. Without women enforcing these systems, it wouldn't be as strong. So, for example, my aunt did everything right. She stuck to the guidelines of the culture, waited for marriage, which is generally like bare minimum, modest, obedient, and there was a man she loved, and he was a sailor. And so 6 months out of the year he would be away, and 6 months he would be there. And it was the women in the family, her mother, that said that she will cheat. So even though she has waited for marriage for maybe 25 years, by the other women, she is judged that she will not stay faithful. So even though she did everything right, she's still not allowed to marry who she loves. And she didn't. And she was judged anyway. So also following the rules doesn't even guarantee freedom or happiness. And so even when you win the game, you still lose. But the most important points to take from people romanticizing Arab culture or the idealized lifestyle of an Arab woman is that being an outsider or being mixed is an advantage because you're able to have more choices. And as soon as someone wants to put the expectations of you on one, you're able to switch to the other and claim the other in this aspect. And you should keep your choices. And seeing these things online is a warning to not idealize one culture and not to limit yourself. The main points or limitations in Arab society, and a few of them are in different societies, is that first you have conditional privilege. The soft life that is portrayed exists only if you obey, and love, protection, things, provisions are conditional rewards. It's not a soft life, it's a contract. And also, because it's a contract with another person that holds so much power over you and is the reason for your lifestyle, the terms can change anytime. Second, in comparison to an individualistic society, there is a reputation economy in community-based cultures, and especially Arab culture. So your value in this society is your reputation. So a woman's behavior, a woman's reputation doesn't just affect her. What she does how what she does is viewed upon as affects her siblings, her parents, her extended family, her entire family. So women aren't just controlling themselves. They're controlling their entire family's reputation. So they're not living for themselves. They're managing, in a way, a family brand. Third, marriage is used as survival. It's not about romance. It's about stability. It's about social acceptance. And it's about avoiding shame. But many people portray it as a love story. But for the majority of women, it's a survival strategy. Fourth, the illusion that men provide everything. Legally, it is true in many countries, but in reality, women still contribute financially, or they will sacrifice their standard of living if they won't work. As well as there are ways, even if a woman brought her husband to court, which generally would never happen because of how it looks to society. In turn, the man can still change the documents of how much money he makes or argue that the woman doesn't need this much. 5, in Western societies, law, or at least in the US, I can talk specifically to the US, the law controls our behavior of what's acceptable. But in the US, it seems that we don't have many social rules. I was raised in the North, so it depends where there are plenty of, tight-knit communities in the US. But generally, in many places, the law controls behavior, and we don't have many social expectations. But in the majority of Arab societies, social pressure controls behavior. So even if something may be legally allowed, you're still not allowed to do it. You can't. So the law might allow it, but society won't. 6 is choice isn't always real. Women technically they choose to marry and say yes, but pressure, fear, conditioning, the fact that they were never given or shown examples of the other option in a positive light makes the choice not free. Because a choice made under pressure is not freedom. And lastly, romanticization comes from a distance. So people romanticize what they don't have to live and also what they're not familiar enough with. Distance removes consequences and it removes your intimacy with the culture in order to see the bad and good sides. It is easy to love something that you only see the good in, and you don't have to survive yourself. The most important part is if you have choices, don't give them up for a fantasy. Don't trade them in for aesthetics. And instead, we should romanticize having a real choice or being able to leave, no matter what the situation the woman chooses is. No culture is perfect. Every system has problems. But we shouldn't be romanticizing control. We should be protecting financial independence and not relying on a man. Not every Arab family is like this at all. There are plenty that allow women to have a choice, but the reality is everything portrayed is an idealized view. Some women are dreaming of the life you're trying to escape, so don't take your freedom for granted. And tell me honestly, do you think this is a soft life, or it's just control with better marketing?